This and all talks at the 2019 JavaScript for WordPress Conference are brought to you in part by our sponsors Pantheon, a high-performance hosting platform with agile developer tools. Check them out at pantheon.io.
Hey everybody, we are back and we are live here for the JavaScript for WordPress conference for a session on Vue and WordPress. Now we have our speaker, and I must say, I don't know how to pronounce your name. And it would be really great if you would tell us how to pronounce your name.
Okay, it's Gbolade.
Gbolade?
Yeah, Gbolade.
Gbolade.
Yeah.
Gbolade, it is a pleasure to have you here to talk about a topic that I think is really relevant in a lot of people's minds right now, which is how do we use Vue, one of these major JavaScript frameworks, and WordPress. I know that there are more and more WordPress projects coming up that incorporate Vue, and we want to make sure that we are on top of that trend and understanding how to do it and what's going on. Gbolade is a WordPress developer, and he is the founder of Mactavis Digital, a company that uses WordPress extensively to solve business challenges and create web and mobile apps for small to medium enterprises. He started using WordPress in 2016. It's a passion for building custom themes with WordPress. We are so excited to have you here. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Gbolade.
Thank you. Hi guys, my name is Gbolade, like I said earlier. I'm a WordPress developer based in Lagos, Nigeria. I use WordPress to build websites, web apps, even sometimes mobile apps. I started using WordPress a few years ago, and a little bit about my WordPress story. So I was a front-end dev, and after a while, clients started asking for ability to be able to make edits on their website. So I used PHP frameworks, PHP backends, built my own PHP backends initially, but it was always very, very difficult to maintain, extend, add functionality and all that. Then I heard about WordPress, and ever since then I've been using WordPress as a backend for my websites. So Vue is a JavaScript framework, and there are a couple of them. Sure, we've all heard about Angular, Vue, React, a couple of them. Vue is just one. Vue is the one I happen to use. Started using Vue a while back, and I like it over the others because it had kind of a smaller learning curve, and I tried using a couple of other frameworks with WordPress. So Vue was the one that was easiest to, maybe not for everyone, to integrate with WordPress. So first, what is a JavaScript framework? Basically, it's there's always this debate about what a library is and what a framework is. I'm sure we've all heard about jQuery. When we start using JavaScript, most people learn jQuery to avoid the hassle of JavaScript. jQuery is a JavaScript library. It provides you with little functionality you can use in your website, and you can easily, do some things with JavaScript with jQuery. It's a library. A framework is a bit more opinionated. It offers a whole lot more features, and you can do a whole lot more with frameworks. It basically dictates how you write JavaScript, and provides like a structure to your JavaScript. So there are a couple of JavaScript frameworks, and they became very, very popular recently, a few years back. Everyone started using JavaScript frameworks because they offer a whole lot of features. There's something called a single page application, which I'm sure a lot of us know about, SPAs. So before SPAs became really popular, a lot of people used Ajax to have some kind of to do things to make their website seem like an SPA, but to build an SPA, there are more things than just loading content remotely from a server. There are things like state management routes and a whole lot that an SPA that is involved in building an SPA. And JavaScript frameworks are usually the preferred way to go about building an SPA. So there are three major JavaScript frameworks. There are a whole lot of them. Seems like a new one pops up every few months, but we have Angular, React, and Vue. Those are the three major JavaScript frameworks. Angular has evolved over time. It started as Angular JS. I think it was developed by Google. And, I started with Angular initially because I wanted to use the Ionic framework for building web apps, which I also connected to a WordPress backend. So I started with Angular and Ionic, but I still use Angular and Ionic for building mobile apps. It's also quite good. But for building web apps, websites, I use Vue. React is also a very good framework. Why I like Vue is it kind of takes the best of what Angular and React offers and combines everything. It's best of both worlds really. So you can check out the other frameworks. I'm not saying you must choose Vue, but using JavaScript frameworks is just a very good way to add a whole lot of functionality to your website and make it a bit more modern. So why use Vue? Vue has quite a lower learning curve compared to some of the other frameworks around. Angular is a bit more opinionated than Vue. For me, I prefer Vue because it was quite easy to get started. You can easily pick up a lot and learn some things and get started really easily. It has a lower learning curve, and you can use it for very simple stuff, and you can also use it for complex stuff. So it's kind of incremental. Angular may seem a bit like an overkill for some projects. Like maybe you just want to manage a small part of your website. You don't need to overhaul the entire existing project. Vue has quite a low learning curve, and it's easy to use with existing projects. Now, you can also use React easily with existing projects, but I just choose Vue. You can try your hands on all of them and see which one you prefer the most. I personally prefer Vue. And Vue has a very solid documentation and a very good community. And there are features in React that and Angular, the Vue kind of incorporates. So things like directives and stuff like that. If you're an Angular dev and you move to Vue, you easily it's easy to switch from Angular to, because it's very, very similar. The whole lot of functionality you have in Angular, you also have in Vue. I started with Angular, and when I moved to Vue, it was really, really easy, very, very easy. State management, the directives, and all that. It was really easy, and I like the fact that, unlike Angular, I like the fact that I could, use Vue for a part of my website, not the entire thing. So I think I've covered some of the advantages that Vue offers. The big one, how do you use Vue with WordPress? So, a lot has been said about headless WordPress, using WordPress, taking WordPress out of just the backend. Like WordPress currently is closed, the backend of WordPress and the front end is quite closely tied, and you might want to, break. Okay, let me start with my first experience with using Vue or using the headless approach to WordPress. I needed to build a WooCommerce theme, and the user interface designer already designed an interface. And if you've used WooCommerce in the past, or if you currently use WooCommerce, especially when it gets to cart and checkout and some of those things, even the product archive, it's a bit it's quite well. I know a whole lot of customizations can be done to make it look like what you want it to look like. But if I see a WooCommerce theme where I have an inclination, I can say, oh, this looks like a commerce theme. Now, this template looked nothing like it. The steps to check out everything was quite different, and I was wondering what I was going to do, because I was just looking at it and I was wondering how I was going to convert that user interface to work with WooCommerce seamlessly and WordPress seamlessly. So I decided to develop my front end separately, add my WordPress backend, and connect both of them with the WordPress API. So basically, that is how you get started with Vue. Now, in order for you to get started, you need to have knowledge of Vue, and to be able to use Vue, you need to understand how to use JavaScript. You need to have a pretty good idea of how to use JavaScript. Another good thing about Vue over Angular is with Angular kind of uses TypeScript, but with Vue, you write your normal JavaScript code. When I use Vue with WordPress for connecting to the API, sometimes I even use jQuery. You can write in jQuery code. You can write in JavaScript code. It's pretty flexible. So you need to have very good knowledge of JavaScript. You have to have good knowledge of Vue. Then you have to understand the WordPress API, which is pretty easy to use. So I'm just going to go to the WordPress documentation. Okay, yeah. So I mentioned the Vue documentation. So this is the Vue JS website. From here, you can get started. If you use a Mac, or I don't use a Windows system, but using a Mac, you can easily use npm to, even on Windows too, you can easily use npm to install Vue and get started in a matter of minutes. So this is the Vue documentation. Literally everything you need to learn, you can get here. When I started, I used what's the name of this Laravel? Forgotten. I used a particular place. There's a particular website where I learned to Vue, and it was pretty easy to get started. So you can go through. The documentation, getting started. So, like I said, it is easy to use Vue for a particular part of your application. So, declarative rendering. At the core of VueJS is a system that enables us to declaratively render data to the DOM using straightforward template syntax. So Vue, when you create a Vue file, you have the template, the script, and the style. In your template, in the Vue template, you have you have to have one root element. So this is an example of a root element. So once you create a new Vue instance, you can tell Vue that this is the element that I want to use Vue on. So as you can see here, you have an ID on this div, and you can use Vue within this div once you just put in the CSS selector. So up here, so you can pass in data. This is not a workshop, so I'm not going to be coding, but you can. I'm just trying to show you how easy it is to work with Vue. You can declare variables here, or you can declare data here and easily use it in your template. So you can write your JavaScript code and you see. So this is like the result. You write hello Vue here. You put in these double curly braces and you put in the name of the variable you used here, and it shows. So then there's something called attribute binding. You can easily bind attributes, and you can. There's a lot. I'm not going to go deep into how to use Vue, but you can easily go through this documentation and you would see a whole lot of functionality. The conditionals and the loops, everything. You can go through this later. So if you've been thinking about building single page applications that load fast, that don't take time to load, like if you go to Google, for instance, google.com, you type in WordPress. Now it looks like it reloaded, but it actually didn't load. If you change this, you'll notice that the data in here is what is changing. So that's basically what a single page application does. You don't have to re-render pages all the time. And that is one of the functionalities any JavaScript framework or Vue offers. Speed and performance. You don't have to always make requests to the server all the time. And that is one of the major things people complain about WordPress, that it consumes a whole lot of resources. You have to always make so many requests to the server. Of course, you can solve that with caching, but still, you might want to reduce all that and increase your performance. This is a very, very good way to do it. So, as I was saying, you need to have good knowledge of WordPress, the WordPress REST API. So the WordPress REST API is currently on version 2. It was released a few years ago, and it was really, really one of the biggest things that has happened in WordPress. So right now, you don't have to use the, currently if you're building a theme with WordPress, you have to follow the WP template hierarchy. I'm sure any WordPress theme developer knows about the template hierarchy, because you cannot just, WordPress also has its own templating system and you have to follow it to the T. So you have to create files and follow a particular naming convention and all that. But when using the REST API, you can build your front end independently of WordPress. You can write your front end code and connect to anything literally through the REST API. So we have what we call endpoints, and that's how you consume the WordPress REST API. So for literally anything you want to do, you can get literally anything, any kind of information you want to get from your WordPress backend, you can get it through the REST API. And let me just search for posts. So posts. So in the WordPress API, these are all the endpoints that you can use to get information from your WordPress backend. These are examples of how to get content from your WordPress backend. So with Vue, you can easily get all your posts, your pages, information from even custom post types. I use ACF a lot. You can easily get any information from WordPress through the REST API. Now, Vue uses several methods to connect to an API. There's Vue resource, there's Axios, and you can also use, I use jQuery sometimes. You can also use jQuery's get post and all that to also connect to an API. But Vue resource is very, very, very robust. You can literally do anything you need to do when it comes to consuming a REST API. Vue resource can take care of it. But I'm not going to go into details on that. So literally, these are the things you need to know in order to start using Vue with WordPress. A good knowledge of JavaScript, good knowledge of Vue, and a basic understanding on how to use the WordPress REST API, and you're good to go. So what are the advantages of using Vue with WordPress? For me, it's the flexibility. I work with a team, and sometimes I may not want to touch the WordPress backend, or I might have a front-end developer who doesn't really know how to use WordPress, but understands how to consume a REST API, and he just wants to, build this front end and connect to the API easily. So that is one of the things that I like about using Vue. That's one of the advantages, the flexibility, the fact that you can write your front end code independently of the WordPress templating system is one of the greatest advantages for me. Also, the speed. I mentioned previously that WordPress makes a whole lot of requests to the database, for every page you're loading. So with Vue, you can have different components and just load those components based on the page your user is going to. So if, for instance, you're on the blog archive and a user clicks a particular blog post, a single post, you don't have to reload all the. Of course, you can use caching to reduce that, but you don't have to reload the entire page just to see a single post. You can easily just pull that data through the WordPress REST API and display it in the template. So that is one of the major advantages that Vue offers. And one of the major reasons you should use Vue with WordPress, the speed. Then also, if you're always making updates to your front end, let's say you work in a startup or you're building a website for a new product that is probably going to have a whole lot of changes, and using WordPress as a backend, using decoupling the front end and the backend you're going to. It's easy to scale when you decouple, because you can make a whole lot of changes on the front end without touching any WordPress code. Then you don't need to have any knowledge of PHP or WordPress templating and all that to be able to, make updates on your front end. So those are the advantages of using Vue with WordPress. Yeah, so thank you. I don't know if you have any questions. You can reach me later on at Gbolade on Twitter, literally everywhere. This is my handle. Thank you very much.
Gbolade, thank you so much for your presentation. And I think that we had a couple of questions. I see one question right here. So I'll add this to the Q&A. And the question is from Amy, and it says, do you have any problems accessing data generated by plugins?
Yeah, so that is a major issue when using when decoupling WordPress. So data generated by plugins, there can be some issues, but you can also extend the WordPress REST API. It's extendable. So for me, I usually extend the REST API to be able to access the data in the database. So sometimes I might have issues with plugins, especially plugins that render stuff on the front end. But most of the time, I always, you definitely face challenges, but not all the time. You can easily extend the REST API to be able to access data.
We have time, so let me do this one more question that is coming up here. And we have a question from Nick. Nick says, have you tried replacing any of the admin screens with Vue?
Yes, you can. So I think I did not talk about building plugins with Vue. Yes, you can also build plugins with Vue and work on the admin end of things with Vue also.
It looks like there may not be any additional questions. So in that case, we're going to wrap up this session. But I thank you so much for joining us for this presentation.